liberals, activists, and feminist groups keep telling us Canadians really, really want gun control. But is that the truth? I don't think so, and today I'll tell you why. A couple of days ago, I saw this story in iPolitics about the dueling gun control petitions being sponsored by members of Parliament. The story made note that Conservative MP Michelle Rempel's petition against the federal government's proposed handgun ban had 23,000 signatures at the time of the story, and it was only about a week and a half after the petition launching. On the other hand, Liberal MP Robert Falcon-Willett had about 311 signatures on his petition advocating in favor of a full handgun ban, and he had a 3-day head start on Rempel's petition. So I started watching these petitions with great interest, paying attention to who has more momentum. I checked back yesterday to see what, if anything, had changed. Rempel at the time had 24,700 signatures, gathering up roughly another 1,700 overnight, and Falcon-Willett, despite having a high-profile story in iPolitics written about his floundering petition, he didn't get any help from his progressive friends. He only ticked up another 10 signatures overnight. And that brings me to today. As I was researching this story Friday morning, about 36 hours into my extreme interest in these petitions, Rempel has 25,222 signatures calling for an end to the Liberals' proposed handgun ban, whereas Falcon-Willett now has 333 signatures, rounding up a pathetic 22 signatures in the last day and a half. Now, these numbers may be different by the time you see the video, and I know this is but a snapshot of the momentum of these two causes, but I can throw a little more context into the mix. Earlier in the year, Rempel gathered up another 16,600 signatures on another petition calling for the end of Bill C-71. That's the latest gun control legislation and backdoor gun registry meandering its way through the Canadian Senate. And Conservative MP Rachel Harder also gathered up well over 86,000 signatures on her e-petition calling to stop the Liberals' Bill C-71. That petition, tabled in September, became the second most signed e-petition in Canadian history. But you'd never know the momentum coming from the anti-gun control lobby in Canada if you got all your news from the mainstream media. You would think that the majority of normal Canadians are firmly behind these latest Liberal efforts to confiscate the private property of Canadian gun owners. Let's just take a look at some of these headlines, shall we? From Maclean's, Canadians' desire for stricter gun control is rooted in our history. Canadians have been calling for tighter regulations long before recent proposals for handgun bans, says some Professor Busybody Know-It-All from St. Mary's University. From the Globe and Mail, rethinking Canada's outdated gun control laws. And no, friends, they don't mean rethinking these laws to make it easier for law-abiding people to just, mind our own business. No, they mean treating those law-abiding people like criminals even more than the law already does. From the Toronto Sun, this time the gun control conversation is different, and then somehow the author is trying to blame Donald Trump for school shootings, and then reiterates how lucky we all are to have these oppressive gun laws I'm willing to bet you $10 this author has never had to live under. Even the BBC is trying to lecture Canadians about gun control. After Toronto rampage, does Canada have a gun problem? Let me answer. No, we don't, at least not a legal gun problem. But do tell me more, BBC, about how Canada needs to have stricter gun control while knife and acid attacks are on the rise in the UK. And then there's this from the Toronto Star. Quebec gun control groups question federal government's commitment to proposed handgun ban. Oh yes, what little conversation the Liberals do plan to have with Canadians about their latest gun control legislation is just too much for these gun control groups. They want the Liberals to grab our guns faster and with less input from us. Yeah, that's not totalitarian or anything. Actually, that sort of attitude is one of the reasons that a lot of people own guns in the first place. There's a delightful irony that it is conservative women like Rempel and Harder who are spearheading the charge against increased gun control here in Canada. And let's remember something here. Rempel herself was the victim of some very violent rape and death threats, some of the worst that I have ever read. And she was also in the middle of an Islamic terror attack on Parliament Hill committed by Michael Zahaf Bibo 4 years ago this week. That attack left Nathan Cirillo dead of a gunshot wound. But in spite of all that, or maybe because of all that, Rempel's not in favor of taking our guns away. And yet, it is the feminist gun control left who claims to speak for her and Harder and all women while advocating for legislation to disarm Rempel and women like her and like me, advocating for gun control in our names and the confiscation of our hard-earned property we bought for ourselves as empowered, self-determined, independent women who made the choice to own the guns we own. No, thank you. The feminist gun control left doesn't speak for me, and that brings me back to the petitions where I started this whole story. Looks like Robert Falcon Ouellette and his gun control friends don't speak for very many Canadians either. For the Rebel.media, I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. Hey, have you heard about the Rebel Live? It's our one-day conservative convention in Calgary. We're holding it November 10th. To get details, a list of speakers, and to buy tickets, go to therebellive.com.